Have you ever noticed how loud silence is? I mean, like when silence really isn't that silence. And your presence, your energy, everything about you is always speaking, even when you're not using your mouth. But what if we didn't just let our presence speak? What if we used our words too? Hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I'm a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 39 books and counting. I've had the amazingly wonderful privilege of working with over 5,000 people, helping them write, publish, market their books to bestseller, and everything that comes beyond that. And I'm here today to help you really, truly get clear, to give you permission, even if you will, to say the thing, to do the thing, to be who you're meant to be. You see, you're speaking volumes in every single moment that you're alive. Every second that you're around, you are saying so much. Whether you're opening your mouth and saying anything, you are speaking volumes. But what if? What if you controlled the narrative? There's an old phrase that says, word of mouth advertising is the best form of advertising. That drives me crazy, by the way. Anybody that knows me knows that I really, really balk at and totally hate that concept, because the truth of the matter is, word of mouth advertising is only as good as the people are saying the things about you that you want to have said. Okay? And the same thing is true when it comes to. Oh, great timing. Glad to have you here, Patricia. It's the same when it comes to you speaking, as opposed to just letting your presence do the speaking for you. Do you understand what I'm saying? We show up, and some of us have good smiles. Others are, even have learned how to not smile on purpose. You've been told you have, this weird thing or that weird thing. And I know a lot of people that are just uncomfortable being seen in the world anyway. And the presence of that, the energy behind that shows up way before they get there. Now, there's two ways that we can go about that. Going back to my thing I hate, about word of mouth advertising, we can just allow all of the things, all the impressions that people make from our energy of us be the only thing that's doing the speaking, or we can actually speak out. You see, one person sees somebody that's bubbly and energetic, and they see it as youthful joy. Another person sees it and they think they're drunk. Same person, they're putting out the same exact energy, probably unknowingly, but it has completely different responses or reactions, really, from the people that come in contact with that energy. And yeah, you can do a lot of work and stuff like that, and learn to be able to put out the energy you want to. But you have no control over the perception of how the energetic part of you shows up in the world. And it's speaking volumes. And your voice is saying things. Additionally, and we've talked a lot this week about ripples and are continuing to, but we make bigger ripples in the things that we do all day long, especially those thoughts that are bouncing around in our head all day, as opposed to the 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever, that we go live. Because I know you're going live every day, because I suggest that to you every single day. So I know, of course, you're doing it. No judgment, really. But I mean, seriously, it's like, and I'm going to pick on Christians here for a second, because I told you I'm a third generation minister, so I've earned the right to pick on Christians. It's like the people who are militant about their devotional time in the morning versus having a relationship with Jesus all day long. And you have those people, we all know them. Okay. Many of us, if you were raised like I do, we have throngs of family members that are like this. And so, yes, if you are walking by their desk or the living room or wherever it is that they have their morning devotions, or, if they do it in their room, whatever, we can see them reading their Bible, saying their prayers, those kind of things. But how do they show up the rest of the day? And there are a lot of people, especially when we start talking about the teens and the young adults in our society, that are struggling. There's a lot of them that are coming some amazing stuff, okay? And we saw the impact of that over the course of the last few weeks, with all the stuff that happened with Charlie Kirk and all the people that he's reached. Yeah, he's upset, flat out pissed off a few people. But there's also a lot of lives that he's changed. But there's a lot of young people, preteens, teens, young adults that are struggling because they saw that example. And, I'll call myself out. My kids, okay, saw me, leading worship at the front of the church. Doing all of the pastory minister kind of things while I went through a divorce. I mean, I literally, my wife left me, and yes, she left me because she got involved in drugs and all those kind of things, blah, blah, blah. But it's not like I was an innocent angel and I did absolutely nothing and she just is completely 100% wrong, okay? It's just not real, all right? Let's get real with it when we have relationship problems. Every relationship has two people that are involved in them, and each one of them has some kind of responsibility, regardless of, the desire that we have to quantify it and have that person be, have that person be wrong and us to be okay. And so I'm working in church. I was a worship leader at the church that we were at when literally my first wife tried to commit suicide. I mean, let me tell you, I drove her home because she was having, she wasn't quote unquote emotionally feeling well, drove her home, dropped her off, came back because the kids were still, in Sunday school or whatever, came back, picked up the kids, drove home, got back. She was trying to kill herself. Her plan was to continue taking the bottle of medicine. I think it was Benadryl. Don't quote me on that. The bottle of medicine that she was taking. She had already taken a few of them, and she had the water bottle ready and the bottle of pills, and she was just getting ready to walk out of the bedroom and leave. Now, yes, therapists will tell you people who want to die are dead, and anybody that gets caught, it's because there's a subconscious element, and this grand plan that they make is partially also designed so that they will be stopped. Aside from that psychological mumbo jumbo, so I led worship, took my wife home, came back, got my children, came home. My wife's in the midst of trying to kill herself, had to leave the children. I mean, my oldest daughter was like 12 then, so it was right on the cusp of whether or not you should really leave, a 12-year-old watching the other younger siblings. In an emergency situation, you do what you got to do. Okay. And yes, just so you know, after I got to the hospital, I called my parents, and I think it was my dad or my mom, one of them jumped in the car and came down. And so by the time I got home, there was somebody there with the kids. Okay. So I'm not a horrible, rotten, awful parent. Okay. Whatever. But all of that, because the times in between, because all of that, and the kids saw all of that. They saw leading worship. Mommy's trying to kill herself. All of that. It's the volumes of everything that's saying all day long. And we've got so many, and it's not just young adults, because I know a lot of people that are in their 50s and 60s that are still struggling with that dichotomy. I mean, I'll even put myself in that category of struggling with the knockdown, drag out fights, let's just be real, of the screaming until the middle of the night that my parents were having at me. For those of you that didn't catch it at the beginning, I'm a third generation minister. My father was the pastor. It got bad enough that when I was in high school, when I was old enough to drive, when I had my driver's license, I actually started going to another church because the disconnect and my desire to want to connect with God, and the disconnect of the dissonance that was all day in my house versus, that hour of church, or that, couple hours a week of church things. And I realize that I, went a little long picking on church people, but I think it's a perfect example. And you could use whatever. I mean, you could go the completely opposite direction of that. I won't go into Satanism, but you could be, just the universe manifesting, I never use God, blah, 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 and saying that all the time. But if you are a manifester, let's go down that road. My youngest daughter's married to Lisa Nichols' son. Okay, so I've met a few people in the secret world, not to mention the fact that, I had pretty much all of them. I've had them on the radio show, including Lisa, and all the folks that were in the book, When Thoughts Become Things. In fact, they did the follow-up book to The Secret to talk about the fact that, you can't just sit around all day thinking it. You've got to put action. You've got to do something. Money doesn't just drop out of the sky. And all of them really agreed with so what is the action you're going to take? But if you're in that world and you're just, I'm believing it, and the money's going to come, and, and you're just doubled, quadrupled, quintupled down on manifesting, and you spend every moment that you're not saying that specific word worried about the bills, are you really manifesting, or are you manifesting more bills? Let's be real. What you focus on grows. And when we talk about the 24 hours in the day, and let's give you let's give you 8 hours that you're asleep, and let's not even talk about what happens while you're sleeping. Okay, that leaves approximately 16 more hours every day. If you were crazy and you went, you went psycho like Steve, and you went live for an hour every day, that leaves you 15 hours. How often are you confessing the things? Are you speaking? Are you using the words? And how often are the words that are really carrying to your ears, first of all, to the little impressionable ears of the children and the people that are put, and also to the world around you? The very energy that you're putting out, but also the words that come out of your mouth. Yesterday, I think it was, I used the example of how powerful, how big of a ripple, just simply saying something like, hey, I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for being here today, to the cashier, who, it's just their job, and they probably will think you're a wacko when you did it. But how big of a ripple that can actually make in their life. Let's look at it from the other standpoint. Okay, and we talked about this a little bit in times past. You get up to the cash register and they say, hi, how are you? And you're like, I'm fine. And the truth is not that you're fine. Okay? But how trite is that? I'm fine. I'm doing good. I'm okay. Right? The very energy that you put with those words say, I'm going to lie to you now. You're going to think about this next time you're at the store, at the cash register, and when the person looks at you and says, hi, how are you? And your mouth is going to say, I'm fine. And then you're going to be like, oh, right? You're going to catch it now. Your words are screaming volumes without saying a word, or without intentionally saying a word. And the ripples come when we begin to really truly say the thing more than just when we need to be on. We're saying it constantly. We're saying it to ourselves first and foremost. They're always thrown when you make a joke. Right. I mean, just a little, because the cashier, and let's say that they do, and this would be very minimal because many of them do way more than this, but let's say they only just dealt with 2 customers an hour for an 8-hour shift. That's 16 times that they've heard, and it's probably closer to like 10 an hour, especially if you're like a Walmart or someplace big like that. So it's somewhere between 10 and 80 times a day they've heard somebody say, "I'm okay," or "I'm good," with that real massive tone inflection. What are you using the 24 hours really, but even just that, in that example that I used, the 15 hours, what words are really coming out of your mouth? What words are coming out of your soul? I want to say that again because I don't feel like it landed right. What are the words that are coming out of your soul before your mouth ever opens? And what energy are you putting out into the world? First off, in your space, your work cubicle, your home office, whatever that might be, the home environment. If your home doesn't feel like a refuge, and I know we all have some challenges that make it more difficult to make the home the refuge that we want it to be sometimes, because there's other people's energies and stuff like that. I totally get that. But also, if your home doesn't feel like a refuge, if you can't create the bubble of a safe space someplace, it says volumes, by the way. But if it doesn't feel that way, how much of it is the fault of the other people in the house, and how much of it are the words that are coming out of your mouth, and more so the energy that's coming out of your very being all the time? Because that carries. Even when you're totally quiet, that voice is carrying. And when we talk about your voice, most of the time, it's the volumes of everything but what we say we are and we say we want to be that are being spoken at massively loud volumes all day long without you ever saying a word. And then you do open your mouth and you say something completely contrary to it. And the thing about it is the reason why we often don't get our clarity is because our ears and our brains don't believe it. We go on live, we say this amazingly important thing to the world, and it's absolutely where you should be. Let's even go beyond the point. Let's say you've joined Visibility Amplifier. You've gone to visibilityamplifier.com, you've joined us. You've done a one-on-one session with me. We've talked through and we've really clearly identified your clarity. And you're going live every day, whether it's the 5-second mirror exercise that we started doing the beginning of this week. Are you doing it? Or do you have a plan so that do 30 of them and then post one every day, whatever. Okay. Although I do really want to see you commit 5 seconds out of every day to looking in a reflective surface and saying powerful words of encouragement. It's got to start someplace. That's why I'm doing that exercise for me and for everybody else. Because we've got to offset all of those words that are screaming volumes of everything opposite of what we say we want. And we've got to do something about that. We've got to change the stream. We've got to start making the right ripples. Because we're making it. Here's the thing about the ripples. Here's the thing about clarity, consistency, and connection. You are consistent. You are connecting. And you are expressing a form of clarity that is making ripples in the world. just often, most of the time, all 10 fingers pointed back at me. The ripples we're making are not the ones that we're intended to make, we want to make, or that we're trying to make. Because we splash the water all day long with how awful, how horrible things are, how worried about bills we are, how this, how that, how, whatever the thing is. And so our own minds completely reject the positive energy that we put out when we get in that space. We need to reboot our whole state, our whole day. That's not me saying you're not going to have bad moments, even bad whole days, even a whole entire bad week. But it's about the abundance of what you're headed towards and what you're putting the words to for that. It's got to be an intentional focus. It can be a whisper. The whispers that are so quiet that only the ears inside, it's really not even something that would be caught by the mic, but you hear it. The whispers that you pray over your child that go beyond their conscience to the subconscious, and they can accept it because it locks in with the things you say all the rest of the day. If you're telling your child all day long how stupid they are, and then after they go to sleep at night, you're, stroking their hair and calling them an angel and praying a blessing over them, which one is locking in? Which message are they getting? I challenge you today. Take a look at the message. For some of us, we need to, once an hour or more often, sit down and really write out, here's all the things that came out of my mouth this last hour. You don't have to be specific, but you can just overview it. I was angry, I was upset, I was, this. I was encouraging, I was positive, We've got to be in charge of that on purpose. Clarity begins from movement. Okay? Your connection is your heart. Your heart says you want to connect to things. But real connection comes from when you stop saying you want to do things and you actually start doing it consistently. If you say, I want to make a difference in the world, are you taking the time to join groups that are going to help you do that, like going to visibilityamplifier.com, to work with somebody like me to help you really find the powerful clarity, and most importantly, to do, speak, say the thing, not think about it, not hope, want, wish, pray, but say the words out loud. There is something powerful in saying it out loud versus just thinking it. And the more you say it out loud, the more you're going to believe it. And the more you believe it. I'll go back to a made-up statistic that I totally made up. Because, the real statistic is that it takes about 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. And, really that's 10,000 hours doing it the right way. Because if you do 10,000 hours doing it the wrong way, you're going to be a real expert at doing it wrong. And I know a lot of coaches that are out there in the world right now that are absolute guru experts and doing it wrong. And some of them are making multiple tens and hundreds of millions of dollars doing it and teaching it wrong. And you're sitting in your house frustrated because you know they're totally wrong. But you don't even believe, because there's another 10,000 hours you need in there. There's the 10,000 hours of you having said it consistently enough and have that be the prevalent message in your day enough that your brain is like, yes, I believe that you believe that. I see that because I see that you really see and believe and are living that out. Not you say this one thing, you go on live, you have this glowing testimony on stage, and the whole rest of the time is just total chaos and screaming like it was at my house when I was growing up. We've got to bring our worlds together and have our private world reflect our public voice. The dichotomy does you no good, and it'll never help you serve anybody else. And I know that's a little bit harsh, a little judgy, and I don't mean any of that because I love you, and this is a judgment-free zone. But I'm also going to be just raw and real with you. And I'm also saying all of these things to myself just as much. I have far too many days I struggle. And I'm far too in allowance of the other energies in my house to direct the energy of this house rather than just powerfully overtaking it. And I'm working on some things while they're gone these couple of days to make changes in that. It's amazing, and I believe it, and I see it. Yes, the definition of integrity isn't how do you show up in public. It's showing up in public as the same person you are in private. Being the same all the time. Now let's do it. Let's change the world together. When I walk that campus and in believing that the right investor, the right things are going to come together, and we can make that the Zaraza International headquarters. And I'm even doing a few posts about that and stuff. But it's not about a building. It's not about a piece of property. It's about aligning me to have everything I do be about being the change in the world that I want to bring to the world. And that starts with me and reaches out to people like Patricia and others and the folks that I live with here. We can't change other people's state, and they can be as negative or whatever as they want to. But we can also allow ourselves to not let them change us. And we can commit ourselves to knowing who and how we want to be, and then really truly being that. Because your voice carries, even when you're silent. And yes, even when you whisper. And yes, even when you say nothing at all, you're still screaming words. And it's time for all of those words to cohesively connect. If you need help with clarity, I'm here. I'd love to help you out. visibilityamplifier.com. It's all set up to help you get clear, to be a place of connection, be a place that you can practice your talk, and give you the opportunity to consistently start doing that. And I hope you'll come and join us. I'm so grateful for you. Thanks for listening to me drone on and on like I do. I hope that you got some value out of it. Tomorrow we're going to talk about safe does not mean silent, and more about the ripple effects. And until we're together again tomorrow, I bless you with happiness, safety, a warm feeling of love, and a great week.